The honourable member for Calgary-Clyde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honoured to rise in support of Bill 206, the Accessible Alberta Act brought forward by the member from St. Albert, informed by disability advocates and community, which is how any legislation impacting Albertans should start. I'd like to thank the member from St. Albert for this legislation, and also the champions in the disability community for never giving up hope, determination, and advocacy when it comes to equity and inclusion. You have carried an unimaginable burden in spite of this government. I thank you and applaud you. You are not alone in this, and we won't give up either. The goal here is simple and critical: to create an accessible Alberta by 2040 through identifying, preventing, and removing barriers through the establishment of accessibility standards. Now, we've heard the Premier say recently that she doesn't wish for Alberta to be an outlier when it comes to benefits for folks with disabilities or for seniors, and I would suggest that the Premier can start by supporting this bill. Alberta is currently one of only 2 provinces without legislated accessibility standards. If this bill passes, it would bring Alberta in line with other provinces and protect the charter rights of people with disabilities. I'd like to point out in particular that this bill demonstrates what good governance and legislation looks like. Alberta's New Democrats are committed to equity and inclusion and well-informed policy, and none of that happens without consultation, especially when it comes to the standards that would be developed in collaboration with community representatives. Now, I know that the UCP approach to folks living with disabilities is to centralize control, remove agency, impose legislation, and pocket any supports that they might rightfully receive as they try to survive this government. But that is not the approach of the Alberta UCP. In any legislation impacting folks with disabilities, accessibility legislation is where they should have started. Bill 206 is consultative, informed by community, and proactive rather than reactive. It will identify, remove, and avoid barriers rather than rely on a complaint-focused approach. It starts with the development of an Accessibility Standards Committee, tasked with consulting on and developing accessibility standards to allow the full participation of Albertans with disabilities. The majority of its members would be people with disabilities, and it must be representative of Alberta and include Indigenous representation. Why? Because representation is not just an afterthought. It is critical if the standards created meet the needs of those we have sworn to serve. The legislation proposes that this committee will develop and propose accessibility standards in a broad range of areas, including employment, built infrastructure, information and technology services, government, housing, transportation, education, and procurement. In other words, all those critical areas that impact the lives of all Albertans. I will say that what Bill 206 does really is universal. It benefits us all. I've heard it phrased that at any time, any one of us could become a member of the disability community and need the world we live in to be more accessible, be it our physical surroundings or any other way we interact with the world. Alberta's New Democrats will always consult with Albertans, and especially Albertans with disability, about any decision that directs their day-to-day life. Again, this legislation is an opportunity for every member of this House to meet the moment and think beyond platitudes when it comes to inclusion, and to start with respect and consultation. For this reason, I urge every member of this Assembly to live up to that parliamentary prayer we say every day and legislate to improve the lives of all Albertans. And they can start by voting for Bill 206.